Welcome to the recap of Miss Universe India 2024. I'm supposed to be editing the video right now, but I realized that the first file of the recap was corrupted. And since I don't want to waste even more time setting up the lights and camera again, this is how we're opening today's episode. First thing I want to say, it's a very, very long show. Sit tight, grab a snack, you're probably gonna need it. Second, at no point during this show did I ever know what was coming next. Could never have guessed. So buckle up. We opened the show with B-roll footage of the contestants and I thought that the ladies looked absolutely gorgeous and I was loving it until throughout the course of the show I found out that we were gonna watch that same B-roll footage about 5 or 6 times. I was losing my mind. The ladies also did this opening number dance, which I love an opening number dance. They had cute little green dresses, but the camera angles, I don't know who was running the cameras, but it felt like their first day on the job. It made no sense. There were parts of the show where one group was dancing and the other one was posing, and for some reason the camera was on the group that was posing, not on the group that was dancing. And then I feel like the shots just stayed on the girls way too long sometimes. For these openings, it's gotta be quick and fast and high paced. And the camera work really needs improvement, desperately. It was also a very long opening number dance, which normally I don't mind that much, but you could tell that the contestants were really struggling with the choreography. You gotta figure out that sweet little spot for your contestants when enough is enough for them, because most of the times contestants, or a big chunk of them, aren't trained dancers. So if they're not trained dancers, they're gonna struggle if the dance is really long, and there were multi-parts to this dance. It just kept going. So either cut it shorter or give them more time to rehearse. And then this part killed me. When the dance was over, it was black in the venue for a solid minute or two. And I was like, you cannot have an audience in the dark for more than a couple seconds. That is crazy to me. At some point I was like, wait, did the power go out? I would be thinking that in the moment in the venue. God bless that audience. Honestly, they sat through a 5 or so hour show and you know they got there earlier to take their seats. I hope that there was food and drinks available for these people. That was too much for one show. If I was running a show and the lights were out for that long, I would be livid. I would be screaming and I would be looking for the person to fire. Then we cut to intros. I don't get why there was a big break between dance and intros. It should have been one right into the other. That would have made sense. But then the camera was missing some of the girls as they were saying their intros. I was like, oh no, it's like their moment and they're not even on camera. I will say though, the female host, her gown was gorgeous. The hosts really need a teleprompter though. They were just struggling with those cards. We were taking a lot of time that we didn't need to introduce the judges. And then whenever there was a transition, we had to wait for the hosts to exit that long runway. We were just watching them walk off and then wait for more darkness. It should have been a quick cutaway to the next segment. I will say when I saw the ladies come out for swim that they looked really cute, but I was really bummed out that they didn't do a preliminary swimsuit competition. The fact that we sat through 51 swimsuit performances for a final competition, for me, it was unnecessary. We need to sit through a top 20 at best of the best swimsuit performances, not 51 during a final show. The ladies did look great in the swimsuits though. They did another little dance, which I think would have been fun, but I think they needed a lot more practice to prep for it. Also, the ladies were often blowing kisses on stage and making hearts and doing all of these sorts of things. That's what we leave for Miss Grand International, not for Miss Universe India. So either somebody was directing them to do that or didn't stop them from doing that. And I don't understand why that wasn't addressed in rehearsals. So now let's talk about my few standouts for swim though. We have number 5. Now I will say she did struggle a little bit in the back of the stage with her first pose. And then the camera was missing angles of her. I was like, once again, these camera angles, they're so important. But she did have a nice pose at the end of the runway and she is very confident. So I've been a fan of her throughout the competition. Number 7 gave a nice spin turn reveal with her wrap. I really like that. It takes practice. Her posing at the end of the runway was nice and she's always very confident. Number 9, I think, needs a little bit more posture, but she had great posing at the end of the runway, and I feel like that's a really important thing because that's typically the moment where judges are going to be scoring you, so that ends up holding a lot more weight. Number 10 is so beautiful, and she did try the Catriona lava walk spin turn, and she did a great job with it too. I think that this performance was solid, honestly, and she had a really nice look at the end of the runway. She was one of my top favorites for swim. Number 11 had a really great smile, and I like her, but I feel like she was just doing a little bit too much with the wrap, and I hope that's a note for next year's contestants if they use the wraps again. Number 13, this was interesting to me because I feel like she did so well here during swim, but then I couldn't think back and remember her preliminary gown performance. So that's why I like to see swim and gown, because some contestants really excel in one versus the other. Number 16. Okay, so when we talk about energy, she was in no short supply of energy for the runway, and I feel like she was really on for finals. Like, I need to solidify that spot in the top 5, and she was really working for it. Now, of course, she has such a beautiful face. I do wish that she would have worked on nailing the poses a little bit more. I feel like at the end of the runway, she was a little bit wobbly on that, trying to get her footing, and it just takes time, just takes practice. But I hope that she can recompete though. Number 17, this was a really solid performance for me. I just thought that she had a nice hair flip and spin turn, great facial transitions, and just poses at the end of the runway. This was solid. She would definitely have advanced for me. Number 20, oh my goodness, she is really bringing body to the swimsuit competition, right? She's so beautiful. She did a great job, and I was worried that she wouldn't give me any smile, but she did at the end of the runway, which softened up the entire thing, and it made it a little bit more playful. Number 27 just nailed it for me. I think that she had a great walk, posing, facials, just like check, check, check down the line. She did a solid job. Number 28 had a nice spin turn and a great opening. Facially, she's very, very beautiful. I just wish that she would close her mouth a little bit more for swim, and that seems to be a note I've had a lot this season for a lot of contestants. We have to watch what we're doing with our mouths on stage, aside from just the smile. Number 32 was so confident, and I felt like she was very connected with the camera and with the judges at the end of the runway, and that's something that stood out about her. Number 33 is good. I just wish she wouldn't lean to the sides so much. Number 34 was bringing a lot of energy. She was like, you're not gonna forget me tonight. Now, she does still struggle with those glitz arms, and I feel like in the future, if she comes back to compete, which I hope that she does, that she will really work on just relaxing those arms. Obviously, the judges love her. She looks 10 feet tall on stage, so I think a lot of judges are already naturally gonna be drawn to her, and she has a good foundation, but there's little tweaks that we can do moving forward to really solidify that title. Number 36, so she was just giving me Latina, and it's so interesting because I wrote this note and I said, if she doesn't win India this year, she will need to go another year because she's younger. And then I rarely ever share my notes, but here are actually my notes from the first impression episode. So it's interesting because when I was looking at the contestant videos, I saw them on the Instagram page, and they had only released about 20 of the contestants. And at the time, I didn't know that there were 51 contestants. So I watched 20 of the videos, and in my head, I was like, there she is, that's my winner, that's her. Now, when I realized, wait, I'm missing other contestants and I'm gonna go back and watch, after I was like, okay, well, hold on, I better not get ahead of myself. But literally from the moment I saw that video, I was like, that's her. That's crazy. I need to trust my own gut more. I loved this performance. This was really great. I think she really has to watch this facial expression though. I would not bring this expression to Universe. The wide mouth, the squinted nose. I think it's too over the top for Universe. So if she just softens all of those things up, she should be doing well in the swimsuit competition because everything else looked great. Number 39, my note was just nice walk, very fit, and good eye contact. Number 41, she had a nice spin turn, but one thing I would look out for her is to slow down the facial expression transitions. You don't want to go from like happy to sexy in 0.2 seconds. There should be a subtle transition there, so just soften those up because she has a great walk and good poses at the end of the runway too. Number 42, I didn't really have any notes. I just thought that this was a solid performance. Nice pose. She had a good hair flip in there. I loved it. Number 44 entered very, very strong. Her hair looks so beautiful. She did a great job with this performance. I don't have too many notes for this. She was solid. She should advance. Number 45, this was a good performance. The one thing is at the end, the hair kind of fell into her face. I was glad she did finally pull that back though. And so that's something definitely to think about and practice, ladies. Practice your hairstyles, what you're going to be doing, and make sure that they're not going to be falling in front of the face. But she was very confident and I liked this performance. Number 47, well, I've loved her since prelim, so I'm not surprised that I love her now. I think she did a great job, but I also think that the hairstyle should be tweaked whenever it's down. I feel like there was something with like the part and then also the curls I think should have been a little bit softer and brushed out, but the performance is what matters, and I liked that. I would be moving her forward. Number 49 had a really nice spin turn. I just think that she needed to soften up the facials a little bit. Number 50, really nice entrance, great walk and energy, and she did really well. I just would have loved to have seen a little bit more of a smile at the end of the runway. I also wish that instead of just bringing out all the ladies after swim, that they would have done a final look for each of the groups after each of those groups walked for swim. I feel like it just would have been easier to remember the ladies. Bringing them out in those split up groups at the end when everybody's already walked didn't really do anything for me. I was like, you could have just brought them all out in one line at that point. And then we went back into the darkness again for too long again. We should really never be in the darkness. And then they said, let's bring out our state directors. Let's not. We don't even need to waste any more time in this show. We are already well over time. We are halfway through the show and we have not even cut down to a top 20. I just could not understand this. How many failed franchises does it take for pageant organizers to focus on showing us the contestants as much as possible during a show and the least amount of everybody else? I feel like the show is always about contestants, and then the only reason we really have anybody else in the show is either because she's an outgoing title holder, maybe it's a rare anniversary year and we're honoring a former title holder, maybe we had a title holder that won Miss Universe. Of course we want to see her and honor her. That makes a lot of sense. But anybody else during a show, I'm like, I feel like you should only be here if you are a filler in the show, and if we don't need to fill, then we don't need the extras in the show. I just can't wrap my head around a 5+ hour show. Then I thought we were going into evening gown, but no, we cut back to that B-roll footage again. At no point during this show could I ever figure out what was coming next, because after that break, we came back and we did a parade of gowns. So I was thinking, are we not competing in gown? No, we're still competing in gown, but not before the director of the show gets his own walk on stage. And then we're going to announce special awards. I'm quickly going to go through those. Best in Gown was number 7. Number 34 won Best Ramp Walk and Top Model. Beautiful Skin went to number 38. She also won the Interview Award, but she didn't advance into the top 20, which I thought was interesting. Then there was a Beauty with a Purpose Award given to number 28. Beauty with a Purpose is Miss World's thing. I could not believe there was a Beauty with a Purpose award at a Miss Universe pageant. Absolutely shocked. Then we have Best in Speech going to 41, and she also went home with Congeniality. Miss Fashion Icon was number 22. Then they did 2 National Costume Awards, one for Judge's Choice, and that went to number 16, and she was one of my favorites too. And then National Costume People's Choice winner was number 18. I really wish that they would have played the national costumes on screen of the winners. I thought that would have been great. Then Miss Popular was awarded to number 21, and then they were like, whoa, no, never mind. Actually, you're not Miss Popular. You're Miss Photogenic. Then they announced number 37 as Miss Popular, and then Miss Glam was number 36. Now we finally cut down to a top 20. So let's talk about the top 20 evening gowns. Number 5 had a great change for her evening gown, very, very beautiful. And I would say overall the ladies' gowns were outstanding for this competition. She looks really, really beautiful in this and so elegant. I love her. She's a standout for me. Number 7, I was also very happy for this evening gown change. Now I do wish she hadn't have styled it with a necklace though. I just didn't think that she really needed it. And she had a great spin turn with this evening gown, solid. Number 10, she is gorgeous in this evening gown, and I really feel like this was a special moment for her in this show. She really stood out. This dress and styling was really working for her. She was one of my top picks at this point. Number 16, I'm very glad that she had a gown change. I also felt like some of her hair needed to be pulled back. I don't know why all of it was pushed in the front. I like her little side pose. I just wish she would have done something with the hair, like just sweep it back, sweep it back. Number 17 is beautiful and her skin is always glowing. Loved her. Great walk. She had a wonderful little rotation in the middle of the runway. I like the design of the gown. It was unique. The fringe hanging down on it took me a second to notice, but I really liked it. Just very beautiful, and for me, she's always solid with her onstage performances. Number 32, very sultry walk. Simple gown, but I loved it. She nailed this for me. Number 33, this gown is doing wonders for her waist. This was so well styled, and honestly, she was really confident and elegant throughout this whole performance. Number 34, I would say she wore a very queenly type of gown. Reminds me of a gown change that we would see on like a Miss Venezuela. She's so tall, but she does look rather young. I do feel like the height is helping her, but to me, she does still look a little bit like a teen contestant, so I definitely want to see her come back and just work on relaxing the arms. But she's very beautiful, definitely a top pick. Number 36, I was like, please remove those sleeves at some point, please. And she did at a nice little moment at the end. I wish she would have done it a little bit sooner, but I love how the gown looked with the sleeves draping behind her, the rose details. She looked absolutely lovely in this. Very, very confident, comfortable. She was in my top 5. Number 39, I was glad to see her here because I really liked her performance for Swim at the beginning of the show, but I didn't really remember her from prelims. But this evening gown, I just don't feel like it was the right gown choice for her. I feel like she can do better moving forward with some different wardrobe. Number 42 is so beautiful. I just love her look too. Her light eyes, the gown perfectly matched her eyes. She wore a very unique gown style as well. She looked absolutely lovely. Honestly, I'd just love to see her represent India in the future at some point. Number 47 is back in red, and I totally get this evening gown change, although I did really love her preliminary gown look and the styling. I think that for finals, this is a lovely look. She's very, very confident. I love how genuine her smile is, and I feel like that's what makes her different. It's what makes her shine. She should keep leaning into that. I hope she'll come back. Now we move on to our onstage question, and I didn't know what was happening next, so we narrowed down to a 10, and they all got an onstage question, and I was like, no, please, no. But it's fine. We had to listen to 10 onstage questions, but luckily we're talking about a pageant in India, and I would say India and South Africa, those ladies, they just don't disappoint when it comes to onstage questions. So at least these are great answers. Number 6 was asked, how do you believe the Miss Universe platform can be used to raise awareness about pressing environmental issues in India? And she says, so it's not their responsibility, our nation, but the responsibility of the whole world, and our platform is a most prestigious platform, so the environmental crisis going around the world needs to be taken care of, and I think that through the platform we should spread the message that we need to take care of our climate crisis and environmental crisis as well. So they asked her what should be done to raise awareness, and I don't feel like she offered up a specific suggestion for raising awareness, but she still spoke well. Number 10, India has a rich cultural heritage. How can we preserve and promote it in the face of globalization? She says, I believe that India is a very civilized and diverse country, and its diversity around the globe and the culture about India is what we are known for. But as we see that India is cultured, but also we are stepping into a new generation, so it is important to carry our culture alongside and also having the essence of modernized culture, and that is what I think about it. Thank you so much. I don't really feel like she got to a core answer about how do we preserve and promote. So I wish she would have gone into some more detail there. Number 16, what is your definition of beauty and how do you feel it differs from society standards? I like it. I think this is a really incredible question, and I want to just describe a quote to answer it. One day, may we not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. This is a quote by Martin Luther King Jr., and I heard it a lot growing up. But when I was growing up, I struggled a lot with colorism. I was not considered beautiful due to my dusty or dusky skin. I couldn't hear exactly what she said there. Every time I would meet extended family or friends, I would be told, and then she says something, not in English, so I couldn't translate it for you. She says that she realized that beauty is so much more than being skin deep. She talked about resilience and about growth and realizing these things, that she saw the beauty within herself, and she's so grateful to be standing there in front of everybody and with all of the amazing contestants on stage and all of the girls that have worked so hard. So she wants to thank everyone for the honor, for helping them to see how beautiful she is as a result of being there. I feel like the answer had a really strong opening, and then I feel like she started to struggle with how do I wrap up this answer with this and finish really strong. Number 17 was asked, how would you approach the challenge of reducing plastic waste in India? She said, I believe we are in a generation where we are striving for technological advancement so much. We left behind what has been taught. It's very natural for kids to be taught that we have to run against marks. We have been learning about environmental change for the longest time, and yet we are still facing the crisis. Why? Because kids are taught that you have to score marks and not be practical about it. So I think our first approach is to have more conversation about it, approach our kids in a different way. We have to act on it more than just learn in our books, and that is the first step on how we tackle environmental crisis and plastic waste. So she started strong, but then I feel like her conclusion was exactly the reason that she said why we're not making progress. The direction I thought she was going to go in the beginning was to talk about how our ancestors had less waste. We didn't consume as much. So how can we return back to those practices, and how can we learn from our ancestors to reduce our waste once again, and how can we teach future generations about that? That's where I thought she was gonna go. Number 28, if you were to win Miss Universe India, what would be your advocacy project and how would you implement it? What are your career aspirations and how do you envision Miss Universe India helping you achieve them? So I thought this question was a little bit unfair because it's 2 questions. It's a lot, but it didn't seem like they had a time limit, so it's okay. She said, as a college student, I worked on a documentary film about atrocities faced by the transgender people, and as soon as I entered that premises, looking at the lack of basic sanitation and food facilities disheartened me. So if given the chance to do an advocacy, I would really want to make sure that they are able to stand on their own 2 feet so that they can make their own bread and butter. Maybe by opening a small cafe where I employ them so they don't have to beg, because I really believe that. And then she said something, and I cannot translate it because I do not speak the language, but if you want to share that in the comments, please do so. So I thought this was a really great answer because she immediately talked about something that was touching her heart and what she would do about it. Number 32, how would you inspire young women in India to embrace their unique beauty and pursue their dreams? And she says, as someone who has returned to pageantry, and even after achieving somewhat a lot in the commercial field and working in television commercials, I didn't let my dream die and I kept pursuing pageantry, and here I am after many tries in the top 10 speaking my heart, and as a professional badminton world champion's daughter who had won the world championship last year in his almost late 50s, I would say that you can achieve your dreams whenever. So don't stop chasing them, believe in them, and take risks, because if you don't throw the dice, you'll never get a 6. So this is interesting. I want to mention that she referred to her father and a great success of his versus really focusing on herself and her own accomplishments. So there's a really big fan favorite, Nadia Mejia. She was first runner-up at Miss Universe Ecuador. And she was also top 5 at Miss USA back in 2016. Again, a big favorite, but her main branding point seems to have been her father's accomplishments. Her father being Rico Suave, this one-hit wonder back in the day, and she's constantly referring to him. I was really hoping that when she would go compete this past year in Ecuador, that she was only focusing on herself, only her accomplishments, because I feel like that would have been the key to her win, standing on her own 2 feet and never mentioning her father. And she got so close, and then to the end, she brings up her dad, and I was like, there it is again. There's something about doing that seems to affect contestant scores, and I feel like that could have affected number 32. Number 34, what is your stance on climate change and what steps would you take to promote sustainable practices in India? And she says, I would like to start this question with a quote that says, when the last fish is killed and the last tree is cut, that is when man will realize that we cannot eat money. I believe in the face of industrialization, we have lost so many forests to deforestation, and we're losing out on our environment. It is very, very important to realize that no rights matter unless we're alive. Humans are required for human rights. Nature is required to keep us alive. And I would like to promote climate justice through this platform by raising my voice and the things that actually matter, and by doing my part in contributing to making a change when it comes to the climate. I would go out and I would make sure that I use this platform to clean our environment and do my part and spread awareness, because all of us together can really make it happen. So the beginning of this answer I feel like is really strong. It's a great answer. I think what could have made it even a little bit stronger is talking about specifically what does doing your part look like. Are we talking about cleanups? Are we talking about being an activist? Are we talking about reducing our consumption? Like, there's so many different ways you can make an impact, and I just love when I get to hear the specifics. Number 36, they asked, if you could have dinner with any historical figure tonight, who would it be and why? She said it'll take her a moment to think about it because there are so many people that inspire her, but then she thought back to her national costume inspiration. She says, my advocacy is about skilling up individual youngsters who have so many skills but they don't have the power of communication, which is why they miss out on the opportunity of success in what they truly love. Then she talked about the person she would have dinner with, and I'm not familiar with this person, but she did say they were powerful enough 300 years ago, and they were brought up at a time when feminism wasn't even a thing, and she made it happen for her and the women around her. So I would love to have dinner with her. So I feel like this was probably a really, really great historical reference if I knew more about this historical figure. But regardless, she sounded really confident in this answer. I love the connection to her national costume and the meaning for her, and then referencing her advocacy. And honestly, when she talked about this in her first impressions, that's what caught my attention. I felt like she was one of the few to share something so direct and quick about the work and the impact that she's making in India already, and I loved that. Number 39, what challenges do women in India face today, and what steps could be taken to empower them? And she says, thank you for the question, sir. I think the challenges we are facing the most is fear. And it's been escalating since the past few months over the mounting number of assault and rape cases that are being reported. It breaks my heart to think about the many others that have gone silenced, and I believe if I can take this platform and encourage women to speak up and stand for justice and to be true and strong, to be themselves, I believe we could truly bring justice and make a better and safe world for the women of India. Wow, wow, wow. Great answer. Very important. Great message. It just makes me emotional thinking about the assault of women around the world and how it's still a problem today. Number 47, what are your career aspirations and how do you envision the Miss Universe India title helping you to achieve them? She says, I belong to the health industry and I've studied diet and I've spent a lot of time in the hospital with patients literally fighting every single day for their life. And that is what has made me choose my advocacy, which is to promote health, hygiene, and nutrition among the youth, especially children, because I believe that basic healthcare should be a necessity. It's not a luxury and everyone deserves to have basic healthcare in their life. So if I would happen to win Miss Universe India tonight, I would use my voice to raise as much awareness as I can to make this world a better place with the healthcare education. Thank you so much. Really, really great answer here. I've loved her throughout the competition. She's solid. I really want to see her at Miss Universe as well. I'm a big fan. So now we get called to our top 5, and there was the exclusion of Daisy, and I know she's got a lot of fans out there I've been seeing in the comments, and I loved her too. I thought that she was solid throughout the entire competition, but I will say that when number 39 came out with that very, very powerful and emotional answer, I feel like that potentially was the spot that could have been Daisy's if 39 had not shared that answer. Now I was thinking, great, we're cutting to a top 5 and they bring the 5 out and then all of the contestants join them on stage, and I'm thinking, are we gonna get a final word or another question? Nope, we're crowning. We're crowning now. I'm like, how did we go from 0 to 50? We drug out the whole pageant up until the top 5. Couple things. So since we didn't have our Miss Universe 2023 crowning, we had Miss Universe India 2015 stepping in to do the crowning of our new queen, which I don't really mind, like having some kind of a former. That often happens when we have a change of franchises. It's really nothing new. I would have loved to have had our Miss Universe India here to crown, but sometimes it doesn't work out. But one thing that really struck me is that she wore the 2024 crown on stage, and I just feel like that was so unnecessary. That's a brand new crown and it's super special, and I just wish that they hadn't have put it on her. There's just something about that I'm like, oh, I don't love the look of that. For all of the runners up, they brought out those crowns and sashes on a pillow or tray thing, and I was like, why couldn't we also do that for our new queen? I just really wish nobody had put that crown on it. It was just really special for her. The other thing is, after she did her walk, then our 2015 queen walked back out with her on the runway, and they just stood there for a while, and then they finally walked back and then crowned that first runner up. So there was a lot of time wasted during that crowning process. It was moving so slowly. And then the other thing that was a little strange to me is that we had the hosts announcing the entire show, and then the last second, the very last minute, we had our national director step out and take over the mic just to say, and Miss Universe India is, and then announce. And he said it 4 times. 4 times. And I was like, can we please just crown our queen now at this point? When I watched all of this, I was like, there are so many changes that should be made for next year to enhance the production quality. And these aren't even crazy changes. Like, to me, these are things that I'm like, yeah, that's a no-brainer during a show. And I really hope to see these changes made so that they can attract even more sponsors and really build up the program and just give the queens a great crowning experience. Give them their moment. Here are results. 4th runner-up was number 39. 3rd runner-up was number 47. 2nd runner-up was number 16, and I know that probably shocked a lot of people, and I was rooting for her too. I love her. And then 1st runner-up was 34. I'm very excited for her placement. She really surprised me throughout the pageant as we kept moving forward. She kept growing through it, and that was really great. And then our queen, number 36. So I feel like she was definitely the right choice on this particular night. I feel like she clearly earned this title. She was so solid the entire time. And I like how even when they asked her, when they were filling time again and tabulating scores again, that they said, are you surprised you're here in the top 5? And she's like, honestly, I'm not surprised. I've been preparing for this. And I know to some people that might seem like a prideful answer, but honestly, in order to get to a top 5 in these types of competitions, really in any competitions, it shouldn't be that much of a shock to you. So she's absolutely stunning. And here's the thing that I'm hoping for her. So there's not that much time before Miss Universe this year. And India historically has done very well at the Miss Universe pageant. And she's gorgeous. She's great. I absolutely love her. Now, I mentioned this in my first impressions episode. She was also the title holder for Miss Teen Earth. So she won that international competition. And then I cannot remember right now off the top of my head if she's one of the contestants that won a state title or if she entered directly to this pageant. So whether she did or didn't, great. But now she's winning this national title. So those are 2 wins. I'm not positive that they're necessarily back to back, but those are still 2 huge wins in a very short amount of time. And here's my concern for her. So if she goes to Miss Universe and she wins, great, no problem. Fantastic, happy for her. If she doesn't win, I always feel concerned for these contestants who haven't experienced a recent loss, because it's so difficult to be in that position, to have win, and then loss, but not just a loss at Miss Universe. So I really hope that, yes, she's preparing for Miss Universe, but that she is not centering her sense of self-worth or confidence or value on her ability to win the Miss Universe title. Those 2 things should be detached, really for the sake of her own mental health, because let me tell you, I have had some tough losses where it was so difficult for me to swallow that loss, and I wasn't able to get out of bed for a month. And I've been friends with other title holders, and you look at them from the outside and you're like, wow, but she did so amazing. She should be so happy she was in the top 5. And yes, we are happy and grateful. But it can just be a really tough pill to swallow if you don't take home that title when you've put so much, you've become so invested with it. So I don't know where she's at mentally, but I'm just really praying that she'll start practicing now, detaching any of her self-worth or confidence from that Miss Universe title, because she is worthy without it. And regardless, she'll be an amazing representative for India this year. I think she's going to do fantastic. I love her already. So thank you so much for watching this recap. I was excited to be able to share this with you, and I will be sharing a lot more Miss Universe recaps for this season. Stay tuned.